Riddle. I didn't study psychology, but I know how to get into people's brains. I'm not a business person, but I know how to sell. I don't have any magic skills, but I know how to make people do what I want. Who am I? A copywriter, a mix of Carl Jung, Bill Gates, and Harry Potter. A rare species. What skills do you need to become one? Watch on to find out. Hi there, my name is Katerina. Every week I share useful tips and insights on content marketing and writing with copywriters, B2B marketers, and business owners. Subscribe to this channel to make sure you never miss a new video. Today we'll talk about what skills a copywriter needs. Because trust me, every business needs a copywriter. They can turn a run-of-the-mill business into a wealth-generating machine. This sounds like magic, but don't worry, you don't need to have any magic skills to be a copywriter. All you need is a lot of hard work and the following 7 powers. Writing. Of course, writing is the #1 skill a copywriter needs to master. Writing doesn't sound hard, does it? Everyone can write, technically. But not everyone can write stuff people will actually read, let alone respond to. Writers are people who can articulate their thoughts and ideas in an interesting, authentic, fresh, and creative way. Writing is hard. It requires concentration, diligence, and a lot of ongoing practice. And what about talent? Do you need to have a natural writing talent to be a successful copywriter? In my opinion, a writing talent and the craving to become a great copywriter get shipped together. In other words, if you want to be a copywriter, you must have the talent. But then there is this quote that Stephen King made about becoming a successful copywriter. Talent is cheaper than table salt. What separates the talented individual from the successful one is a lot of hard work. If you want to be a successful copywriter, you need to write a lot. Research. Copywriting is a democratic job. It accepts people of all walks of life, levels of education, and professional backgrounds. It seems like to be a copywriter, you don't need to be an expert in anything. But let me ask you a question. Will you listen to somebody who doesn't understand what they're talking about? I don't mean to say that a copywriter should have a degree in the field they are working in. Yet, if a copywriter is not an expert, it's harder to write persuasive copy, but not impossible. You can always borrow somebody else's expertise. Research is your ability to gather information and ideas about your topic to create copy that jacks up your trustworthiness. Research builds up knowledge and deepens your understanding of your product and the audience you are selling it to. But it's not limited to a few Google searches. Good copywriters always interview other people, users, clients, experts. They aren't afraid to ask questions and talk to strangers. When you do research, you need to dig deep, not just skim the surface. Skimming the surface leads to producing fluff content, and fluff content weakens the force of copy. Your detective work shouldn't finish with what and when. You should also understand how and why. Creative thinking. One of the most important ingredients of effective copy is novelty. Our minds gravitate toward novelty. It captures our attention. To generate original ideas, you need to look at things from different angles. What does it mean in practice? Let's imagine you try copy for a landing page of a software development company where you need to communicate a message that this company builds high-quality software. Our minds always tend to seek out shortcuts. That's why the first sentence you may come up with might sound something like this: we'll build reliable software. You don't even need to think to write that. It comes up automatically. But let's try to look at high-quality software from a different angle. What can we compare high-quality software to? How about a bridge? Civil engineers build bridges just like software engineers build software. Bridges need to be reliable, otherwise they won't be operational. We can use this analogy to convey the idea of high-quality software. Good software is like a strong bridge. If you want it to be safe and withstand the weight of people, you can't afford to make errors. Unreliable software can wreak havoc on your business. You need great software engineers to build reliable systems. Creative thinking requires you to step outside of your comfort zone and strain your brain. Flexing your creative muscle is a lot like fitness. If you want results, you need to exercise regularly. Analytical thinking. Copy needs to be clear and simple, otherwise it won't get people's attention. Copywriters need analytical thinking skills to be able to simplify the complexity. To turn complex into simple, you need to be comfortable with data. Your job requires you to wrangle with data on a daily basis so you could gain insights to create the right message. You need to be able to find relevant information, break it down into smaller pieces, compare and contrast data from different sources, search for cause and effects, and identify patterns. Great copywriters are curious, and they won't just take someone's word for it. They will discover the truth for themselves. And once they found the truth, they can make sound judgments based on clear evidence. Copywriters with great analytical and critical thinking skills ask meaningful questions, tolerate other people's points of view, and build logical arguments. They can explain why they are making certain decisions in their own copy. Visual thinking. Engaging copy creates vivid images in the reader's minds. Great copywriters show, they don't tell. To paint a picture with words, you need to visualize your reader, the things you describe, and how your writing looks on the page. Visual thinking skills help you make your words come alive. When you think visually, you can come up with clever metaphors, descriptive details, and sensory words. You can also enhance your copy with images and graphics. There is a reason why they say a picture is worth 1,000 words. Visual content is just as important as words. It's easier to remember, it's more engaging, it's more attention-grabbing, and it helps you get your point across. To enhance your visual thinking skills, try to communicate your story without words. How would you explain the idea for your sales page if you couldn't use the words? Sketching can help you enhance your writing and reinforce the ideas you're sharing. Effective communication. At its core, copywriting is communication. Effective communication, just like effective copy, builds trust, creates relationships, and makes people take action. To communicate effectively, listen more and talk less. Before putting pen to paper, you need to have a crystal clear understanding of your audience. You want to know how they think, what they want, and why they want it. And there is no better way to get into people's brains than to sit and listen. When you listen, you get to become more empathetic. That is, you get to understand the world from other person's perspective, your customer's perspective. With this understanding, you can tailor your message to your customers and persuade people to take action. Marketing. Copywriting is marketing. Still, many copywriters know nothing about this discipline. They see themselves as writers, and the writer's job is to put words on the page. If you think that putting words on the page is all that your job is about, you will most likely end up a Fiverr offering commodity for every penny it's worth. Successful copywriters are marketers. They understand business, and they know how to use words to make an impact. So there you have it, 7 skills that a copywriter needs. Writing, research, creative thinking, analytical thinking, visual thinking, effective communication, marketing. Check out my other video that explains how copywriters differ from other types of writers. I will see you next week with a new video. Thank you for watching and subscribing to this channel. Я Катерина. Пока-пока.